Hi guys, in this video we're going to actually work out the rest of these problems here. We're talking about solving rational equations, and rational equations would be equations that have fractions in them, okay? And typically x is going to be on the bottom of the fraction, which is something we haven't dealt with until this chapter of Algebra 2. And the question is, how do you solve for x? The easiest thing to do when we have a fraction, a single fraction on both sides, is to simply cross multiply, okay? So whenever you have a single fraction on both sides, that is a good time to use cross multiplication. So cross multiplication, very simple. I'm going to take 4x plus 5 and multiply it times 3. I'm going to take the x plus 1 and multiply it times the 9. In the previous video, I walked through the issues that we would have. If we end up getting x is negative 1 or x is negative 5/4, we're going to need to cross out that solution. That's the extraneous solutions that I mentioned in the previous video. If you didn't watch that video, go back and watch it now first, because that's going to be a big deal as we go to solve these problems. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Ready? Bottom left times top right, x plus 1 times a 9. So I'm going to write it like this, 9 times x plus 1. And then the other side is going to be the 3 times the 4x plus 5. And now I just need to do some distributive property and solve for x. So this left side would be 9x plus 9. The right-hand side would be 12x plus 15. Let's subtract the 3x from both sides. So if I subtract, or sorry, not 3x, but the 9x from both sides. So that gives me 9 is equal to 3x plus 15. Let's subtract the 15 from both sides. And that gives me a negative 6 on the left and a positive 3x on the right. If I divide out the 3, that gives me a negative 2. X is equal to negative 2. Now, before I go through and circle that, whoops, didn't realize you couldn't see that, okay? Before I go through and circle that, I need to make sure, really what I should have done is come up here and said, okay, I got a negative 2. Is that going to be an issue? The two values that were issues were negative 1 and negative 5/4, negative 1.25. So negative 2 is going to be just fine. If I plugged a negative 2 into this original problem, it wouldn't give me anything where I'm dividing by 0, and so that is my answer. Okay, let's work one more problem. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated. Before we start, okay, first step is to figure out what examples, what problems are we going to have, what do we have to avoid for x. So in this left side, I have a 2x plus 5, and I can't have that equal to 0. So that means that the 2x can't be equal to negative 5. So the x can't be negative 5 halves, which is negative 2.5. On the right-hand side, I can't have an 11x plus 8 equal to 0 because that would be dividing by 0. So that means that the 11x can't be equal to the negative 8. If I divide that out, that gives me x cannot be negative 8/11. So if I get either of these two values right here at the end, that's going to be an issue. I need to cross that answer out. It's an extraneous solution. So time to cross multiply. I'm going to take 1 times 11x plus 8. Well, that's pretty simple. That's just 11x plus 8. And the right-hand side becomes a little bit more difficult because now I have x times 2x plus 5. You might see what's going to happen here. When I distribute out the x, I'm going to end up with an x squared, aren't I? So I have 11x plus 8 is equal to 2x squared plus 5x. Time to combine. We're going to set it equal to 0, right? Let's move everything over. So I'm going to subtract 11x from both sides. I'm also going to subtract 8 from both sides. That gives me 0 on the left, and it's going to be equal to 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. I need to solve for x. The easiest thing to do here, honestly, is I see that everything is a multiple of 2, so I'm going to divide everything by 2, including the 0, technically, but that's not going to change what the 0 is. So if I divide everything by 2, I can do that. That's fair. That's all right. That gives me 0 is equal to a single x squared now, minus 3x minus 4. And that looks like one of the bad minute problems, all the factoring problems that we've done this year, right? Two values that add up to negative 3 that multiply to negative 4. So I'm thinking negative 4 and positive 1 here. So I'm going to factor that out. That's going to be x minus 4, x plus 1. Now, I have two values here. I have the x plus 4 and the x plus 1, x minus 4 and the x plus 1. Those multiply together to give me 0, which means either the x minus 4 is equal to 0, or the x plus 1 is equal to 0, right? Looks familiar? So my two values then, add the 4 over, x can be 4, or subtract the 1 from both sides, x is negative 1. And so I look up here and I say, okay, 4 and negative 1, are those issues? According to this, no, 4 and negative 1 will not cause any problems. And so those are my answers. I don't need to cross them out. The answer is x equals 4 or negative 1. So that's solving problems through cross multiplication. Hopefully that makes sense. When you have one fraction, a single fraction on either side, like you have with these problems, that's the way to go. By far the easiest process.